Democrats are doing better in special elections than ever, but it might be a mirage. It takes a lot for me to find SNL funny, so the once a year hits really stick with me. And I remember this October 2018 skit really vividly. It featured Democratic voters nervously talking about the upcoming midterm election.
This Tuesday, November 6th, Democrats are bringing much needed change to America. And I have never felt more confident.
The punchline was that Democrats were so scarred from 2016 that even when all the polls showed them on the brink of winning big, they were still terrified that Republicans would somehow pull it out.
There's still a long, hard road. Kids, go inside. Mommy told you, go inside till Tuesday.
Till Tuesday?
Just go inside.
It was funny. And of course, Democrats not only won the 2018 midterms, but won the biggest popular vote margin for any party in a midterm in US history. But that's not the only reason Democrats shouldn't have been as worried. There was one big sign that they were going to win, a pattern that has reliably predicted every midterm winner since 2006. Over the past 20 years, the party that overperforms in special elections leading up to the midterms has won the House majority in those midterms. Overperforming, of course, means doing better than your party's nominee in the last election. So say Kamala Harris lost a district by 5 points in 2024, and then a Democrat wins it in a special election by 1 point. That's an overperformance of 6 points. And right now, that pattern is looking bonkers level good for Democrats. According to the elections analysis website, The Down Ballot, as of October 2025, Democrats are overperforming Kamala Harris's 2024 performance by 15 points. That's not just really good, that's far and away the best overperformance we have seen in the modern political era from either party. Look at the comparison here. In the entire Trump era, no out-of-power party has done this well in special elections. But these numbers could be a mirage. And the argument for why comes down to what I call the parable of 2024. Okay, look, healthcare in this country is broken, including Medicare. Anyone who's tried to navigate the system knows it. It can be insanely confusing and hard. And that's the exact environment that fraudsters and scammers thrive in. I've seen people in my own life have to duck and dodge, losing their life savings just to get the Medicare benefits that they're entitled to. It's infuriating and it's unfair. And that's what Chapter wants to help with. Chapter was founded by people whose own parents got scammed in this space. Their goal is to protect people navigating the Medicare system by cutting through the noise and offering honest, unbiased help. Chapter advocates for you, not insurance companies. And they're the only advisor that compares every plan nationwide, helping you find the plan that's right for you. Chapter is free, and by their count, they've saved the average senior over $1,000 a year. So whether you're retired yourself, close to it, or just looking out for the people you love, you can get free and unbiased Medicare help by dialing 816-953-0470 or go to askchapter.org/therecount. Okay, back to the show. It's easy to forget now, mostly because a lot of them want you to forget it, but there was a time in 2023 and 2024 when a lot of Democrats really believed that Joe Biden was going to prove the haters wrong and thump Donald Trump in a rematch. And over again, the data point that they pointed to was their party's performance in special elections.
In 2023, every close race we won.
On average, they were overperforming Biden's 2020 margin by 3.5 points. And it wasn't totally unreasonable to think that this was a great sign for them. Look at 2020. In the special elections preceding that election, Democrats overperformed Hillary Clinton's 2016 margin by 4.8%. Now, Biden didn't quite reach that, but it was directionally predictive. He ended up improving on her national margin by 2.4. So the implicit argument went, if the relationship between the 2024 election and its preceding special election results is the same as 2020 and its preceding special election results, then Democrats are not only not in trouble at all, but things are fine. But of course, things weren't fine. Those 2023 and 2024 special elections were a mirage. While they had swung hard left, the actual presidential results in 2024 swung 6.1% to the right. That discrepancy caught a lot of Democrats off guard, but it shouldn't have. The reason is simple. The kinds of people who are the most likely to vote in special elections are the exact kinds of people who have moved the most towards Democrats under Trump. So it's worth asking, is that happening again? We actually talked about this a bit in a video a couple months back. Go check it out if you haven't. But if you're new here, here's a simple way to think about this. There's basically 3 tiers of elections in the US. There are presidential elections, which have the most diverse electorate, the most representation of young people, non-white people, people without college degrees, and people who only casually follow the news. Then there are midterms. These have fewer young people, fewer non-white people, fewer people without college degrees, and fewer people who don't closely follow politics. Then there are special elections. And the people who vote in special elections are wildly different from most Americans. A 2024 analysis by Nate Cohn at the New York Times really drives this point home by comparing some congressional special elections to the districts overall. And it offers some good examples. Whereas senior citizens are 1/4 of registered voters in those districts, they were half of all special election voters. Whereas only half of registered voters there vote in primary elections, over 90% of special election voters do. Whereas 18 to 29-year-olds are 15% of registered voters in these districts, they were only 4% of the special election electorate. You get the picture. The trend is clear. The kinds of people who vote in special elections are usually highly engaged, usually older, very passionate about politics, more likely to be white, more likely to have college degrees. And that's the core of why Democrats' overperformance in special elections before 2024 was a mirage. The exact groups that are most likely to turn out in special elections were the ones they had the fewest issues with, like voters 65 and older. Remember how they were way overrepresented in special elections? That age group actually ended up swinging the least towards Trump out of any, just 1 point. So it's not that those special elections lied. Democrats were knocking it out of the park with a small slice of the electorate, but they were also struggling hardcore with the exact chunks of the electorate that were not being represented in special elections, like young people or Latinos, who both swung hard to the right in 2024. And that's the core of all of this. The parties changing coalitions have changed what special elections tell us. This kind of movement is why you have liberals making memes like this, or why Vice President J.D. Vance is mocking Democratic protesters as
old, primarily white people.
Because that demographic is now giving Republicans a lot of trouble. If you follow politics even a little bit, you know this general storyline. And you know that it's the storyline of American politics over the past 10 to 15 years. Another reason to be skeptical of what these special elections are saying is the generic ballot, which is pollsters' term for when they ask voters which party they would rather vote for Congress. Right now, even as Democrats are performing way better than ever in special elections, their lead in the generic ballot is really narrow. Much smaller than this time in 2017, for example. So they're doing better in special elections than 2017, but worse on the generic ballot than 2017. That would seem to be a pretty good example of the exact kind of divergence we're talking about here. Now, the generic ballot this far out only says so much, but that is a real warning sign for Democrats, because remember, this dynamic added up to a disaster for them in the 2024 election, and it can still be a problem for them in the future. But we're not talking about 2024 here, or 2028. We're talking about now. And this is where the argument against the mirage comes in. First, with what I would call the midterm Punnett square theory. If this doesn't immediately give you 8th grade flashbacks, the Punnett square is a thing used in biology to explain and predict the presence of genotypes in cross-pollination or breeding, like what color flowers a red and white rose would make, or what the offspring of a brown rat and a white rat would be. I do hate it, for the record. My theory here is that we can apply a similar principle when it comes to midterm elections by using 2 factors. 1, being the out-of-power party, and 2, having a coalition primed for midterm elections. Being the out-of-power party is of course important because polls have repeatedly found that the voters of the party not in control of Congress and the White House are more motivated to vote. This was true in 2010, 2014, 2018, and 2022. And the coalition part is everything we've already talked about. Whose voters are more likely to turn out in elections? And when you look at things in this way, it's pretty easy to explain the past couple midterm elections. 2010, Republicans were the out-of-power party and had the coalition much more likely to turn out and vote. And the outcome was a big GOP victory. 2014, Republicans were the out-of-power party, and even while things had already started to change, they still had the coalition more likely to vote. Outcome, big GOP victory. 2018, Democrats were the out-of-power party, and now, after Trump's election, after all that movement we've talked about, they now had the coalition more likely to vote. Outcome, big Dem victory. 2022, Republicans were out of power, but Democrats now clearly had the coalition more likely to vote. And the outcome was muddled, small Republican victory. So under this standard, 2026 would look pretty simple. Democrats out of power, and now with a coalition more likely to vote than ever. And using our very scientific model here, the outcome of that combination would be pretty clear. But many Republicans are very committed to making sure that Democrats do not have a turnout advantage, that the voters they won over in 2024, like non-white voters, younger voters, and people who don't turn out in midterms as much, are not one-offs, and that they become reliable Republicans. And there is some evidence that they could be onto something. According to voter registration data, the number of Americans registering as Democrats has plummeted over the past few years, while the share of Americans registering as Republicans has steadily climbed. Registered Republicans have even overtaken registered Democrats in states like Nevada, which Democrats used to be able to count on. And that's a pretty good sign that a lot of those non-white and young people who voted Trump in 2024 are, at least for now, officially signing up with Republicans. At the same time, there is also a very real warning sign for Republicans with these exact voters. Polls increasingly show that these lower propensity voters, the ones who don't usually turn out in special elections, the ones who swung right in 2024, are now souring on Trump. Look at this. Multiple polls have found that since taking office, Trump has lost the most ground among some of the exact groups he made the most gains with in 2024, like Latinos or young people. Yes, we should always have some skepticism of polls, especially when they've missed Trump's popularity multiple times. But this is a universal movement in all of them, and that tells us something real. And it's probably not a coincidence that that's coming when unemployment among some of these groups has notably increased since Trump took office. The core Republican midterm plan is to get these less frequent voters, the ones they've recently won over, the ones they're registering to vote, to turn out in 2026. But if those voters are also mad at Trump, even that would not be enough. And if that trend continues, Democrats' dominance in special elections might end up being the prediction they hope it is. All right, I got 3 questions for you. Number 1, why do you think Democrats aren't doing better on the generic ballot? 2, is Trump going to turn out his 2024 voters? And do you vote in special elections? Be honest. Let me know in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button and the bell so you know every time we post a video.